What up, everybody? Welcome to Music Blueprint. My name is Gina Fontanella, and we teach you how to make money. If you are a creative, you need to know how to make money. Unless you're just making art for fun, then that's fine. Maybe this podcast isn't for you, but if you're trying to make money with your art, this is your podcast. And today, we are going to go over master versus publishing rights. It is a very confusing thing. Very confusing, but I'm going to try to break it down in super simple terms. What I like to call, for me, everything needs to be like dumb terms. I just have to get the base level, and which will help me understand at a grander level what things are. So, getting right into it, every song is split into two parts, okay, in terms of money. The two parts are the master, which is what was recorded. For instance, when you record in your bedroom, that is a created sound recording. It could be a cover of a song, it can be your own song, doesn't matter, but whatever is recorded, that is the master, the sound recording itself, okay? Then, on the other side, you have publishing, which publishing is the music, the lyrics that were written. So that typically means the top line melody, which is whatever is sung, which is the melody that is also attached to the lyrics, okay? So that's how it's split into two different things. Master has to do with recording itself. Publishing has to do with the writing, okay? So, for instance, if you do a cover of a song, you will not have any financial access to the publishing because you didn't write the song. The only thing that you would have access to is the master because you created a sound recording of your own, okay? So then when you're looking to release that song into the world, you have to understand in your brain, half of the money that comes from this song, whether it be streaming, whether it be a TV sync deal, does not matter. Half of the money I will not be receiving because I did not write this song, okay? So doesn't matter. Radio, doesn't matter what it is. Whatever money is received, half of it gone. Poof. So let's say $10,000 you make from this song. From streaming, you covered Natural Woman by Aretha Franklin / Carole King, if you want to get really specific. You cover a really cool rendition of that song. You make $10,000 from it. $5,000 gone. You're not receiving it. The other $5,000 then is split among what you've decided to be split. So for instance, let's say you produce this version of the song with a producer, and the deal that you have with the producer is that he gets half. Great. So now your $5,000 that's left is now split in half. So $2,500, $2,500. All right? So keep following me here. But let's say you sign the song to some sync deal, and the sync deal says we get half of the song. Okay. So now you only have half left, right? So you were left with $5,000, but now the sync deal is saying it's taking half. So $2,500 gone, and now you have to split the other $2,500 between you and the other producer, which would be $1,250, $1,250. Do you see how we're going down the rabbit hole here? Okay, so again, that's how things are paid out, right? But what really got me confused about master rights, and what I always seem to be trying to look up, is people would be like, the master rights are so important. You have to own the master rights. And I was always so confused, why? Because they're like, that's where the money is. And I'm like, well, why? Why is that where the money is? And what I've realized is it has to do with the fact of you have control on where to put things. When a label has control of the master, they can, if they don't like you, they could just be like, no, that commercial wants your song, but we're not putting it in there. And you're like, but that could recoup my deal for me, and you're just not putting it in there because you want to hold me to this deal. You see what I'm saying? rather than if you own the master, you could be like, I'm putting it in that deal. I'm putting it in that commercial, X, Y, and Z, or I'm releasing the song so I get streaming, or I'm letting Sirius XM play the song, whatever the reasoning is. And then that creates the opportunity for a lot more money. So when you're doing sync stuff, it's your decision on when you want to sign this song over, because some deals are exclusive or not exclusive, so you have to be aware of all of that as well. I probably should do another podcast just about that, because that's really important to know. But the reason why people are so adamant about owning the master or owning most of it or being the majority owner of it is because of control. They want to be able to say, oh, I'm going to put it in this commercial. I'm going to put it in this whatever. And the reason that is because that will, in essence, make you receive money, which will also help you get out of certain deals that you're in. If you need to recoup deals, like if you're in a publishing deal and half of your pub is gone until you recoup the $50,000, well, if 15 commercials come up to you and they're like, we want to use your song, you're like, yeah, I'm trying to get out of this deal. Use it 15 times. I don't care. But if a label owns a song, they're probably not going to do that because they don't want your song out into the ether like that. So that's what's really important about it. It's not that necessarily master stuff makes more money than publishing stuff. It does in terms of if you're doing a cover, because obviously with a cover, you're not making any money on the publishing. But in terms of actually creating opportunities for money, the master, you have to own the master. If you just own publishing, you don't really have any leverage on anything, okay? So let me make that clear, because that was something that I was really, really confused about. I kept thinking, like, is the master like only involved with sync? Is the master only involved with certain categories of music for you to make money? It's not. Every streaming, radio, performance, it doesn't matter where the song is played. It is always split into two things, 50-50 master, 50-50 the other 50% being publishing. So it doesn't change money. It just has to do with sense of control on being able to create opportunities for more money. And when you own the master, you have the control. When somebody else has the master, they have the control. So if they're locking you into a deal, they might decide not to put your song in certain places because they want you to stay in that deal. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. Okay, so now moving on to publishing. Publishing is split into two parts, music and lyrics. Now, in most writing sessions, what typically happens is whoever's in the room, you split it equally. I know when you're first starting out, you're nitpicking and you want to go line by line and all that stuff, but I'm telling you right now, that is a very amateur way to go about it. On the higher up levels, that's not how you do it. And there are a few reasons for that, but to me, the reason I've found that, or I've held true to doing that, is because everybody has good days and bad days. And some days you were rocking it. You're like, you wrote the whole song. Nobody really added anything, but you know what? You split it equally because there was a vibe in the room and everybody added to that vibe and left it at that. And then other days, you're not so on it and other people did it, but they still gave you your percentage. What I'm trying to say with that is that it always ends up equaling out. It does. Always ends up equaling out. So understand that theory of like a little bit of law of attraction where some days are good, some days are bad, but it ends up having an equal playing field on that sense. But also, people in the room create a vibe and an essence in a room. And I know some people are like, well, the person was just there like chewing gum. And like, if they didn't add anything, if they were just there because they just wanted, their friend was there, I'm not saying to add that person. But I'm saying like somebody is there, they were added to the session, right? They were on the calendar for the session, or they were added to the session that day or whatever, and they contributed something, whether that be a random word that was garbage, that was like, what are you even thinking? What universe are you on? Like, that didn't help at all. You will be very surprised on how those random things that just didn't work end up creating another train of thought that you would have never created if that person wasn't there, okay? So first and foremost, that's just like a little side bit thing. But publishing money-wise is split into two different things. So there's mechanical royalties and there are performance royalties. Okay, so mechanical royalties, in a very simple way, it is anything that is reproduced, like almost, I don't want to say hard copy because now we have streaming, so that doesn't create a tangible thing that you can hold anymore, but it used to be tangible things like a CD, a vinyl, anything that reproduces that song from its original form. So when you create the song, you create the original WAV file, right? But then that WAV file gets distributed throughout everywhere, right? It gets distributed to Spotify, it gets to Apple Music, Deezer, Amazon Prime, whatever you distributed it to, it's on all those platforms. And when people listen to the song, that's reproducing it in a different form. And if this helps too, every time you put it on a different platform, that platform reproduces it to sound different. So for instance, a lot of artists complain about Spotify because it compresses the song sound. It compresses it so tight that it makes it sound very thin, rather than a lot of artists really like Tidal because it doesn't compress it. It takes the WAV file as is. So again, it's taking your original song and kind of reproducing it into a different thing to fit the platform so people can listen to it, okay? But in the simplest idea, it's reproducing into a CD copy, into a vinyl. That's what everything mechanical royalties are. The second part is performance royalties, and that is where the song is performed. So you could perform the song on a TV special. Let's say you go on to Good Morning America and you perform that song. You can make money from that. Let's say you went on tour and you played 100 shows this past year and you always played, in your set list, you played 6 of your songs in your set list every single time. That's money. And I'll say another side note about that. To be able to, as an independent artist, to make money like that, you first need to have all your songs registered through ASCAP. So first and foremost, has to be registered. But second, you also, or not ASCAP, it could be any publishing rights organization. So if you have ASCAP, BMI, or CSAC, those are the three, you have to register your songs in one of those platforms, okay? When you register them, then you also have to go in and tell them, hey, I played 100 shows this year. These are the dates, and I played these songs on each one of those dates. So you have to go in and tell them, bop, 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 what you played, okay? And what you did and how many times you sung the song and whatever. Because if you don't, what happens to independent artists is we're such small fish that ASCAP's not keeping track of where we play our song or where our song's played. They got bigger artists to tend to, but they will pay out if you do the due diligence. And sometimes that's like, when I was playing a lot of shows, like when I was playing 125 shows a year and I registered my songs like that, I ended up making like an extra $500 to $1,000 every year just from registering my songs. And there's like a huge like vat of money that is just waiting for you to tap into, and it doesn't take that much time. Like imagine, let's just say it takes you a day to fill in all the 100 shows. You're supposed to do it every 6 months, but let's just say it takes you a day, and you fill in all your shows, and you're like, golly, that was like a full 8 hours of me typing in all these shows and everything that I did. Okay, great. You got paid $1,000 in a day, $500 in a day. That's pretty good money. Making $500 in a day, look, I know some of my bigger people will be like, $500, but when you're an independent artist and you're doing everything on your own, $500 is like, sometimes depending on where you live, that's all the rent for that month. Like that is a big difference. So you need to go into your PRO and tell them, there's usually some marker that you can, I don't want to say register because that's not the right term, but fill in all the shows you played and your specific songs that are already registered with them, the songs that you played during those show times. So you have to do it yourself. They're not going to do it for you. Okay? So, and then for streaming, for every time your song is played, and this is going back to how are you making money on these two things, on master versus publishing, okay? It's for streaming, radio, sync, both the master and the publisher is engaged, okay? So anytime your song has to do with anything, both of those two things are engaged. It's going back to what I was talking about before, why I was so confused, why people were so like obsessed with the master. It does not change how much money you make, okay? It only changes about control. So anytime your song is used and that song is registered, you have to make sure it's registered. I don't know how much I can say. You have to make sure the song is registered, okay? You will be making money from that song. Whether it be a penny, a dollar, doesn't matter. You'll be making money from that song. It's that simple, okay? So hopefully I brought it, explained it into a really simple way. If you have any questions, please always don't hesitate to ask a question in the comment. I'm very active on here. I would love to answer your comments. And if this has helped you in any way, please share it to other musicians. Tell them about it, because a lot of people find this very confusing, and it's not as confusing as you think, but you have to be very intentful and aware of what is going on, because people will try to swindle you big time. And I know that's hard to hear sometimes, because as humans, we try to be so hopeful and try to see the good in people, but in this industry, you got to have your eyes open, and people will try to swindle you out of stuff if you don't understand it. So please understand it, rewatch it if you have to, but understand all of this and understand it thoroughly. So thank you guys so much. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next week.